Hello everyone and welcome to my micro bakery. Today we have such an exciting video planned. This one's a little different than my usual videos because I went on a trip to Vermont with my family. It was such a good time, and of course anytime there's a trip or a family event, anything like that, you know I have to bake. So this is me getting ready for that trip the day of. So I decided to bring some pumpkin spice loaves, English muffins, and banana bread muffins. So that is everything I'm baking this morning that you're seeing. And I really wanted to make the pumpkin spice loaves because we made French toast out of them over the weekend. They were so good. And it was perfect because it's the beginning of October. All of the leaves in Vermont are already changing to orange, red, all beautiful colors. And then we got to eat our pumpkin French toast in the morning with the beautiful scenery. It was just amazing. You'll see later. But here I am getting those loaves ready. You can see all of the cinnamon oozing out of it. These are pretty hefty loaves. The pumpkin spice loaves always end up pretty dense, and that's because of all the pumpkin puree, the cinnamon, everything in there. If you look at the bannetons behind these loaves, you can see how the cinnamon is all kind of gooped up with water, and that's because when you mix cinnamon into the loaves, they actually pull all of the water out of the loaves. So for that reason, I always add the sugar and cinnamon in my final shaping. I don't want to add it too soon with the dough because I don't want it to mess up bulk fermentation since it does pull out that water. So anyways, now we are on to scoring the loaves, and then we'll drop them into the pan for the double pan method. This is what the pans look like in the oven. I can fit 6 of these double pans in my oven at each time, but I do notice I have to obviously cook it longer because there's less air circulation. And while those loaves are cooking up, I get started on my English muffins. So the dough was already made the day before and it was doing an overnight cold proof. And the reason I have to get started on them now is because they actually have to sit out at room temperature for another hour or so to do their final proof. And I separate each of these out to about 100 grams each. And then I'll go ahead and roll each piece of dough into a really tight ball. And this is where it gets interesting. So I did mention I do have to do the 1 to 2 hour proof on the counter, but I just like to get it all ready with the pan so that once that proof is done, I just put it right into the oven. So I actually use these King Arthur rings. They're about 3 inches long, I believe, 3.5 maybe. And this is what the dough will go into. That way when it starts to rise, it rises into a perfect circle. It just gives it that really nice English muffin shape. So I am just putting butter on each of these rings. That is one thing about them. If you do not put butter, it will stick and the shape will be ruined when you go to pull it out of the pan. I learned that the hard way. Once they're all buttered up, I put a layer of cornmeal on the bottom, and then I just start scooping the dough into each of the rings. And then I go and put another layer of the cornmeal on the top of the English muffins. That way when they come out, they are perfectly coated. I do line the top with a parchment paper as well, because you'll see I put another pan on top of it. It encloses it. This also helps with the shape. That way when it rises, it kind of hits the top of the pan and it stays flat and doesn't look like, like a muffin or something. And it also just helps trap steam and, continue the rise in the oven. Alright, so while those proof on the counter, it looks like the pumpkin spice loaves are at their halfway mark, or I should say more than halfway mark. Basically at this point they've been baking for 30 minutes at 475. And then I'll put them back in for 15 minutes. And I was kind of nervous to see how these would look, but they came out really good. As I said, these come out so dense from everything that's in it, so I'm always nervous how they're gonna look. And this is another reason I'm nervous to sell them also, because they never look perfect. It's kind of hard to make them look perfect since, there's so much in it, and they do end up a little dense. So I don't know, I'm gonna try selling the large loaf this weekend and see how it goes. But again, I'm just worried about the presentation. And this is what it looks like when it came out of the oven. You can see there's some dark spots. I did have to, once I took it out of the oven, it wasn't at the 205 to 210 degree mark that I always check to make sure it's fully cooked. So I had to put it back in there, and they just kind of ended up burning a bit on the outside. But honestly, the taste was still amazing. It was great, so I'm not mad. Alright, at some point I put the English muffins into the oven. This is me checking on them. They were not ready yet, so I moved on to my banana bread muffins. This is me just mushing up the bananas. I find it so much easier to use a Ziploc bag than using another dish to mash them up. So this is a little tip I do if you make these as well. Alright, once the muffins are all mixed up, I go ahead and put them into their containers. I really like these liners. I get them off of Amazon. It just makes them look very professional and fancy, as if you were to get it from, a professional bakery. I also really like the height of the liners because there's still a lot of space left over, so that, when I add chocolate chips on this top, it kind of holds them in without having them fall off the edges. Okay, and then the English muffins are ready to go. You can see how perfectly brown the tops get. I really like this method of baking them. And then I put the banana bread muffins right in the oven. I was actually rushing at this point because I had to leave in an hour or so, and I still needed to get myself ready. Here's an up close of the English muffins, and you can kind of see the pumpkin breads in the back, but these English muffins just have the most perfect shape. I love the way they came out. And then once the banana bread muffins were out of the oven, I guess I had to take a smell. And then I topped them off with a crumble. This crumble is just melted butter, flour, sugar. It's regular sugar and brown sugar, and then also cinnamon. I feel like it adds the perfect touch, and it also helps tie in all the flavors because I also put cinnamon into the batter as well. And it just makes it look really pretty and professional. Then I top them off with some chocolate chips, and we're done. I got everything packaged up and ready to go. At this point, I got myself ready. I didn't want to close them yet because they were still a little warm, and if I did, it would cause some condensation to build up, so they're just resting while I get myself ready, and then we are on our way to Vermont. We made it to Vermont, and the first thing I did was set out these delicious treats. That way when everyone came, they can just pick it up and eat whatever they want. We stayed at the most perfect Airbnb. Everything was just amazing. The scenery was amazing. It was just a really great time. Here are all of the goodies set up. This was a beautiful kitchen. I had to take a bunch of pictures of this kitchen because whenever I have or build my own house, this is what I want it to look like. And then I'm also cooking some mac and cheese here. So I have the pasta boiling and the cheese sauce to the left. This is how it came out. Look how delicious that mac and cheese is. And the next morning we finally cut open the pumpkin bread. I'm really happy with how they looked on the inside. You could really see that swirl come through. And we made the most delicious French toast out of them. It was so perfect for fall. It was very cozy. And we did a couple fun activities. We went to a local thrift store. I actually found 2 pairs of jeans and a really nice sweater, all for like I think $15. I love thrifting. And it's always really fun to go to a thrift store like wherever you travel just to see how different it is. But yeah, I really like this one. We all came here actually twice. We came here twice in one day. That's how good it was. And since it was the first weekend of October, we didn't realize this, but there was an Oktoberfest going on at Mount Snow, which is right next to our Airbnb. So we decided to go over there, and it was really cool. There were some competitions going on, there was music, there was lots of food, there were some craft vendors. It was nice. And of course, we took a lot of walks to see the beautiful foliage. This is the best time of year, especially in Vermont. It was so pretty. I was hoping I could see a bear, but I didn't. And the weekend went by so fast because we were having such a good time. The views were amazing, the vibes were so great, the baked items were delicious, and then the next day we went home. Thank you for watching, bye!